I'll call the meeting to order at 7:30. Roll call, please.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mr.
Here.
Boda?
Yes.
Mr. Patsalos?
Here.
Mr. Horn?
Here.
Mrs. Babel?
Here.
Mr. Blackstock?
Here.
And Freehand is present. Yeah, everyone's here.
Okay. Debbie, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you sit back down in this chair? I have short legs.
Okay, moving on to the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented? Hearing none, a motion to approve the agenda as presented would be in order.
Make that motion.
My second.
We have a motion, we have a second to accept the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have public comment. Anybody in the audience that wanted to speak on anything that's not on the agenda?
You have to approve the
You
minutes.
can put them.
Oh.
Yeah, minutes.
Excuse me, I missed one. Back up. Approval of the minutes of April 1, 2019.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of April 1st, 2019.
I'll support.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of April 1, 2019. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, moving on to public comment. Anybody in the audience that would like to speak about anything that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, moving on to the consent agenda. We have the C1 is the Marine City Fire Authority, City and Township runs for March 2019. C2 is the St. Clair Fire Authority, City and Township runs for March 2019. C3 is the April 2019 Historical Commission minutes. C4 is the March 2019 Park Commission minutes. C5 is the March 2019 building permits. C6 is the March 2019 cash summary by fund. C7 is the March 2019 cash summary by bank. C8 is the March 2019 balance summary report. And C9 is the March 2019 revenue and expenditure report. So is there's any comment on the consent agenda?
I got one on the St. Clair Fire Authority. It looked like there was 4 runs on that one, unless it's a misprint. Somebody by the name of Kroll.
That's the,
Which page are you on, Don?
That might be the author of it, Michael Kroll. But it was printed by me. Yeah, that's what it is. It's just,
Yeah, sometimes they call them back, but
yeah, I know it.
they cancel them en route. I didn't go over where each
Oh,
one of
that's
these
okay.
was. There's only 7 of them. Yeah, they're canceled.
Mhm.
if there are no further questions, I'll make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll support.
I'd just like to mention one thing about both the fire authorities. We're working on the budgets on those. We haven't voted them in yet, but it looks like they're going to be pretty consistent with what they were in the past year, which both fire departments have really done a great job on cutting cost. we've dropped them about every year in Marine City, and St. Clair's dropped a lot last year, and I believe it's dropping again this year. So I just wanted to mention that, and we'll have copies of those at our counter too, if anybody wants to look at them. All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, we accept it. Next, moving on to disbursements. We have invoices of $39,581.68. We have accounts payable of $66,572.04. We have payroll direct deposit of $26,584.75. We have EFT payments of $9,554.83, for a total disbursement of $142,293.30.
I'll make a motion we pay the disbursements, excuse me, in the amount of $142,293.30.
Support.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Mrs. Babel?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Mr. Boda?
Yes.
Mr. Butsalis?
Yes.
All affirmative.
Okay, motion carries. Next thing is new business. We have the MTA option for resolution and nonpartisan township offices. I believe Mr. Freehand is up on that, and he gave it to you at the last meeting. Maybe you want to explain what they're looking for?
We received a notification from the Michigan Township Association, and I mentioned this at the last meeting. In 2012, there was a vote taken to consider what the MTA's position would be about the character and nature of township boards. And at that time, they approved and reaffirmed that township boards would be partisan boards. And recently it's come up, even there's a proposal in the legislature, pending in the legislature, to give townships the option to be a partisan board or a nonpartisan board. What the MTA is asking is all the township boards in the state to look at a resolution and adopt a position that in favor of being a partisan board or a nonpartisan board. This would be an advisory vote on our part, or an advisory resolution that would go to the MTA. They would then consider all of that and take a position that they would then pass on, if you will, to the legislature. What it would provide for, so we're not voting necessarily to adopt a resolution to say that we're not giving information directly to the legislature. We're giving an advisory vote to the MTA board. They're not bound to accept it, even if a majority wants it one way or the other, but they will take it under consideration. And they're doing this just as a procedure because there is pending legislation, and they would like to take a position based on the input they get from all of the township boards. So the resolution that you have is to consider our position as advice, a resolution that would go to the MTA that they would consider in taking a position to the state legislature about whether or not we feel that the township board should be a partisan board or a nonpartisan board.
Is the MTA trying to steer the townships in a certain way to all become unified, either all partisan or all nonpartisan? Is that what?
I don't think so.
No.
The discussion I heard over at the MTA convention was they want to give us the option to be one or the other.
We've always had that option, though.
There's a, I don't think we have.
No, we haven't.
No, we haven't had that
No.
option.
You have to run as a one of the parties or an independent.
But the township board, as far as I know, there's never been legislation that gave a township board the option to be one or the other. So this would, ultimately, we're expressing our opinion, information would go to the MTA, they're gathering all of this information by April the 30th because that legislation is soon to be introduced in the state legislature.
They've got
But
a
it-
little, down, it's in the fourth page, down towards the bottom, it says partisan identification strengthens MTA's political clout by leveraging party influence on public policy.
What they gave you was the pros and the cons.
Okay.
The left-hand column is why you should support, or what people are saying to support nonpartisan township, not township boards, and the other one is arguments opposing nonpartisan township boards. So
I think all we're doing
they're
is
trying to
giving
be neutral, actually, in that they're
Gonna go roll call.
I think the MTA Board of Directors wants to do what the majority of the townships want to do.
basically.
That's what they're
And
asking for the survey.
That's what they want to then submit as a recommendation to the state legislature.
Myself, I think they should be nonpartisan, just like the cities.
Would you like to make a motion to that effect?
Sure, I'll make a motion.
Well, we gotta do the resolution, don't we?
Well, okay.
Resolution is resolution.
That's what
It's just a written
the
motion.
motion would be, to adopt a resolution that would say at a meeting of such and such, that be resolved, the township board is on record in support of legislation that would allow township boards, the opposition, to have its elected officers appear as nonpartisan on the ballot.
That's right. Then anybody can run. You don't have to be a Democrat or a Republican.
Anybody can run now. You can, it's,
Well, you would do away with the primaries, probably.
You still have to run a primary, because you probably have 2 or 3 running.
You'd get
for
the
same
top.
Position.
Probably the
four.
top,
Yeah.
on the trustees, the top 4 vote getters, probably.
Yep.
Good call.
Wait, so Mr. Horn made the motion?
So,
And we have a second?
we have a second? Do we have a second?
Maybe not.
I would support it.
And we need a roll call vote on it.
I would.
Is there any discussion, any further? No, sir.
Is there any further discussion on, we have a motion and a second to accept the resolution. It's basically a survey to either go, to be, the township boards to be nonpartisan.
Or partisan.
Or partisan.
Both partisan.
Well,
Yeah, the option to go either or.
what the final legislation would be, and the one that is pending, would be to give townships the option by local control, local action, to determine whether or not they would be, they want
But
to
if
be
it's
partisan.
voted yes, then all the townships, by the MTA will tell them that all townships will be nonpartisan.
All that we're supporting, what this resolution says is that we support, if you vote in favor of it, it would be to support the resolution that would give townships the option to be partisan or nonpartisan, and that would be a local vote. The legislation would be the enabling legislation eventually, if it's passed by the legislature, that townships would have the option locally to determine whether or not they wanted to be partisan or nonpartisan. Currently, you don't have that.
Okay. So this vote is just to, it's not that we're going to be nonpartisan.
No.
It gives us
No.
No, it just gives you the right to.
right to do it.
It
Okay.
gives
Well,
us the
the
right.
MTA wants to know what the feeling of all the townships in the state are. This is not going to the legislature.
No, this is going to the MTA.
This is just going to the MTA, so they know how to voice
like
their
to know-
opinion when they go to either
I'd
Bobby
like to
Ford
know
or
who
against
really
it.
put this out in the mind of this legislators. I read that article in the paper last week. Legislators don't even make proposed law. They're done by,
Well, they vote on it.
well, yeah, they vote on it, but it's not brought in by them.
Right,
just
they
a
don't
bunch
write the
of-
details up, right. So we have a motion and a second, and if there's no further discussion, then we do a roll call, and that's what this is here?
Yes,
Roll call vote?
Yeah, right here.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Freehand votes yes. Mr. Boda?
No.
Ms. Babel?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
No.
No. Okay. Mr. Patsalos?
Yes.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries, it's 5-2.
We sorry.
Okay, moving on to new business 2, personal property tax reimbursement allocation. Cindy, do you have any input on this personal property tax?
No, really, it was just brought to our attention by the auditors. So it's a formality the board has to adopt where they want to allocate that funding to. I've just shown you where you've allocated it in the past. 20% must go to debt, doesn't all have to, the rest can go wherever you want, or you can put it all to debt.
I mean, I like it there, I mean, capital projects, that pretty much covers everything we're gonna be doing. I mean, it's not, it's a lot of money, but yet it's not a lot of money. So we need a motion. Does everybody understand what we're doing here? Personal property tax? I believe most of that is paid by the Edison now. A lot of the small personal property tax is not, is exempt. I think 40,000, you gotta have over 40,000. Okay, so a motion would be in order to accept the division of 2080, 20 going to water plant improvement debt and 80 going to the Township Capital Projects Fund.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
Okay. We have a motion and we have support. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Let's do roll call on that, please.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Boda?
Yes.
Mr. Patsalos?
Yes.
Ms. Babel?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Freehand votes yes.
Motion carries. Next, under new business, we have surplus equipment. It's not action, it's going to be an auction or a sale of excess township equipment. Do you have anything on that one? This came from Blaine?
Correct.
Does he have a list of this?
Well, he handed me a handwritten list. I haven't had a chance to
Oh,
put it
okay.
together.
Okay.
He's just asking permission to have one, is that what we're?
Yep, the Township Board should set the dates, and then we can publicize that. It's going to be a typical, it's really like a silent auction. It'll be, the equipment will be out at the Springborn Garage from 8 a.m. till 3 p.m. People can come, and they can put their bid in a sealed envelope. That'll be then delivered to the board for their review at the next meeting.
And the township will have the right to refusal of,
Right, I don't think that they're going to choose to set a minimum bid. That'll be up to the Township Board, whatever bids they receive, if they want to accept or refuse.
yeah, because last time we set some minimums on it and stuff didn't go. We didn't get bids to meet the minimums. But I think as a board, when we bring the list, then we can decide. We're just looking for action now to
Just-
have the,
Correct, yep.
to have the sale.
Mhm.
And we'll have more say on it when we, am I correct there, Cindy? We'll.
Yep.
Okay. So we just made a motion to allow the DPW, and it's everything that's excess in the township. It'll be run by the DPW though. But we're, all the departments, water plant, sewer plant, and the office can put stuff in there. So we need a motion to allow them to have the sale.
I'll make a motion that we have the sale of surplus equipment in auction action.
I'll support.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 4 under new business, it's a wireless asset upgrade to Township Hall, and I believe has to do with we can only get the Wi-Fi in a part of the building, is that? And we have our clerk in the back, and he needs access to it, and our assessor.
You have questions? Yep. So, back in November, we did receive a quote from High Tech when they were doing a network analysis. This is item number 4 on our kind of progressive list to get things brought up to speed. They provided us with a heat map. I think you all have that. And that just shows where those 2 points will be. The darker colors, obviously, the closer you are to that point, the stronger your signal. Every corner will be covered in the building. Obviously, the way back corners may have low connectivity, but they will have connectivity. I don't think it'll be a problem, and it will then solve the problem of the clerk's computers having to be brought up front every time they need to upload and download data.
So I believe we put that in this room here when we had the flooding on Bryson Lane, because emergency management come in here and tried to set up in this room and they couldn't get So that's when we
Moved it,
energized this part.
right,
The system will have secure parts.
right.
They'll have a private partition, if you will, and then a public partition. And that's very critical because when we do anything related to elections and that kind of documentation, and we're using laptops or whatever, they need to be on a secure system. So that's why currently, when we do anything, we have to do it hardwired, or we do not go into the statewide database, voter registration database with the laptops on our public system currently.
Did we bid this, Cindy, or is this just this the only one that quoted it?
Well, at the time when we were doing the network analysis, I asked him for quotes for all the critical components. This was one of those back in November. I asked if he would hold the pricing. He said yes. Like I told Bob, if we wanted to go out and get apples to apples prices for the hardware, we could do that from CDW. I found that that's really going to be very close anyway. So what you're looking at is the labor component really for install and final bringing it online.
It's compatible with everything we have here
Right.
now.
It's, and High Tech has done a very good job for us also, because they are available very quickly if we have technical issues, and it's helpful to the staff to be able to call and get problems resolved very quickly.
Right.
Some of this equipment, does it apply to that Michigan,
My
what's
Deal?
it, My Deal?
Right, so that would be when I reference CDW, they're the MyDeal hardware supplier. They only supply the parts, so we would still have to contract out the install.
Okay.
And they're a My Deal representative, High Tech is, right? I thought that's what he told us when we bought the computers.
I'm not sure that he is. I know that CDW is the, component hardware.
So you're recommending
Okay.
High Tech?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we upgrade our wireless access for the Township Hall for a price not to exceed $2,100 from High Tech.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and we have support to allow High Tech to do this access wire upgrade, wireless upgrade. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Babel?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Freehand votes yes. Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Boda?
Yes.
Mr. Patsalas?
Yes.
And Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, that completes our new business. Moving on to old business. Recreational marijuana opt-out ordinance. At the last meeting, there was a motion made to have our attorney draw up something, and that's what you have before you in your packet. I attended a class over at the MTA. It was very informative about recreational marijuana. I know I've told you in the past, we talked to our attorney that, we should wait until this is all the rules are in place. Well, that date is December 6th, that they're supposed to have all the rules in place, but the attorneys that put on the class are saying that it's going to probably happen before because the cities and the state want this done. They're recommending that we have some kind of ordinance in place, at least have something there. We may have to modify this, or we may have to make up a whole new ordinance come when we find out what all the rules are. But they recommended if you have nothing, then you're opening yourself up to letting them come in, so. This is what we got here. I've read through it, it sounds pretty good. Not real detailed. But that's what we got. So it'd actually be an ordinance. Now, what's your feeling on it? Anybody have?
I just have a question. I guess the fines that are attached to this, that's on a per day basis?
Yeah,
If
it
someone's
says
found to be
every
in-
day it would be between $100 and $500. Plus all the costs associated with it. This was wrote up by Janelle, our attorney.
Oh, yeah.
This focuses strictly on establishments. You read it.
Right, this has
It's-
nothing to do with medical marijuana, this is recreational. So prohibiting of recreational marijuana.
Yeah,
Establishment.
It does not permit, or does not prohibit the use of marijuana for recreational purposes in your own home, all of those things that are specified in state law. All this does is it prohibits it's an ordinance prohibiting an establishment that would be providing recreational marijuana for sale, essentially.
Someone running the business.
Yeah, running a storefront. So what's your pleasure?
Make a motion not to allow recreational selling of marijuana within the township for a new ordinance.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the recreational marijuana ordinance. Think we should read this in here, or can we just say it's on file here at the township if somebody wants to come and look at it?
I'm not sure what the clerk would prefer.
We're down the passway too, and you can come in the township hall and read it.
I'll go ahead and read it.
Yeah, why don't you read it? And then,
Okay. What we are adopting is a prohibition of recreational marijuana establishments ordinance, an ordinance to provide a title for the ordinance, to define words, to prohibit marijuana establishments within the boundaries of the Charter Township of East China pursuant to initiated law of 2018 MCL 333, 27951, et cetera, as may be amended to provide penalties for violation of the ordinance, to provide for severability, to repeal all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, and to provide an effective date. The Charter Township of East China, St. Clair County, Michigan ordains Section 1 title. This ordinance shall be known and may be cited as the Charter Township of East China Prohibition of Marijuana Establishments Ordinance. Section 2, definitions. Words used herein shall have the definitions as provided for in Initiated Law 1 of 2018, MCL 333, 27951, as may be amended. Section 3, no marijuana establishments. The Charter Township of East China hereby prohibits all marijuana establishments within the boundaries of the township pursuant to Initiated Law 1 of 2018, MCL 333, 27951, as may be amended. Section 4, violations and penalties. Any person who disobeys, neglects, or refuses to comply with any provision of this ordinance, or who causes, allows, or consents to any of the same shall be deemed to be responsible for the violation of this ordinance. The violation of this ordinance is deemed to be a nuisance per se. The violation of this ordinance is a municipal civil infraction for which the fine shall be not less than $100 nor more than $500 in the discretion of the court. The foregoing sanction shall be in addition to the rights of the township to proceed at law or equity with other appropriate and proper remedies. Additionally, the violator shall pay costs which may include all expenses, direct and indirect, which the township incurs in connection with the municipal civil infraction. Each day during which any violation continues shall be deemed a separate offense. In addition, the township may seek injunctive relief against persons alleged to be in violation of this ordinance and such other relief as may be provided by law. This ordinance shall be administered and enforced by the ordinance enforcement officer of the township or by such other persons as designated by the township board from time to time. Section 5, severability. The provision of this ordinance are hereby declared to be severable. If any clause, sentence, word, section, or provision is hereafter declared void or unenforceable for any reason by a court of competent jurisdiction, it shall not affect the remainder of such ordinance, which shall continue in full force and effect. Section 6, repeal. All ordinances or all ordinance or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith are hereby repealed. Section 7, effective date. The ordinance shall take effect, and it would be today's date.
do we have to have two readings on this, or just just one reading to pass an ordinance?
Two.
I believe, I know for sure for any zoning changes, you need 2 readings. I'm not sure for this type, I don't know.
Probably
Yeah.
be best
This-
to just do this.
This, I would presume we probably do because this is a zoning ordinance and it's enforceable.
Then yes. Mhm.
So we'll call this the first reading, and then it'll be on the next agenda 2 weeks from now.
Correct.
Okay.
And then it will take effect that date.
Yeah, in 2 weeks. Okay.
So you have a motion pending?
We have a motion, we have a second, and we've read the thing. So does anybody have any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next thing we got is the reversal of the budget amendment. This was submitted by Cindy. Is this a audit thing?
No. It's just as we move through the kind of reallocation of planning, zoning, building department, and things like that, we're going to see things that just need to be adjusted. There's no change in funding, it's just recategorizing from one to another, kind of moving it back. Corinne suggested that this would be a good thing to do at this time. It's not something that the auditors pointed out.
So it's just a moving money from one part.
Changing general ledger numbers. I show you the approved one and then the new one. It's just putting them back where they were originally.
Oh, reverse it.
It's reversing the budget amendment,
Correct.
putting it back in the planning commission.
Okay, so I guess we need a motion to reverse the budget amendment.
I'll make that motion that we reverse the budget amendment and so get back to what it was originally.
Support.
We have a motion, we have support to reverse the budget amendment. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Announcements, I believe we're closed this Friday, or Good Friday, is it? So that's the only announcement that I have. Mr. Horn, member comments.
Well, I know we got a school election coming up, and I'm just wondering if the township has the facilities for the water and sewer to take care of. We're going to bring in just about another town in here. And I just wonder, I would imagine that the water plant and the sewer plant will take care of it, but the lines that we have.
Correct, and I was told by our DPW supervisor that he was called one day and he was asked if there's water and sewer on Meisner Road. He stated yes. And further discussion with our DPW supervisor, and I asked him, what about the capacity? And he said that he couldn't figure that out. It's probably gonna have to be figured out by an engineer. So I think I should reach out to the school district now that I've been hearing different rumors that they're saying that it's adequate, and we don't know if it's adequate. So I think I'll reach out to the school superintendent.
I believe some of the lines that we have here are too small. And,
I agree. I agree.
That's all I have tonight.
Okay, Mr. Pasales,
I don't have anything this evening, Gary, thank you.
Mr. Boda?
I just hope that vote you folks took a few minutes ago just come back to bite you. Because you know damn well what's gonna happen is there's legislators in this state that wanna take the township boards away and make it under county. We've read about that before, we've talked about before, now you just shot yourself in the foot. I got nothing more to say.
Well, that was defeated a couple
No,
of
you
years
shot
ago.
yourself in the foot.
You know, that's your opinion. Mr. Freehand?
Tonight, we held a public accuracy test for the tabulators and the voter-assisted terminal. The election commission, Mr. Patsalis and Mr. Horn were here, as well as myself and Wendy Meldrum. And we not only appointed the election inspectors for the May 7th election and the receiving board members, we also conducted the public accuracy tests. The two, Mr. Horn and Mr. Patsalis, were satisfied. They had an opportunity to use the voter-assisted terminal and to test the equipment and make sure everything was operating correctly and everything worked the way that it should have. So we had nobody in attendance, but I think they're satisfied that all the equipment is working and we are ready for the election. One other thing, just a reminder that with the passage of Proposal 3 last November, there's been some changes in voter registration, dates, absentee voting, and so on. People are eligible to register to vote at the Secretary of State's office or by mail up to April 22nd. It has to be postmarked by April 22nd. After that date, they can register to vote up to and including the day of the election, but they have to do it at the township clerk's or at the clerk's office wherever they happen to live and where they are going to vote. So from April 22nd, or from April 23rd on through May 7th, even Election Day. You can register on Election Day, but you have to do it in person with documentation that shows your residency, and it has to be done at the clerk's office. So we will be open the Friday before Election Day till 5 o'clock for voter registration and absentee ballots, and then on through Election Day itself. But that is done at the clerk's office. That's all I have.
Mr. Blackstock?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Babel?
Not tonight.
I just have a couple of things as usual. I attended the MTA convention. I attended 5 or 6 of the classes. The first one I attended was a special assessments, and that has to do with, like we have a special assessment on our canals down here. But I was more interested in what we were doing on Bryson Lane and Lavely Lane. And I was informed that we can actually, this board can actually ask for a special assessment, or the residents can ask for a special assessment. I wasn't aware of that, that the board could do it. So that may be a way of funding what we do on Bryson Lane. It's going to be costly. And the other class I attended was the Little Red Book, and I think we all have copies. I think Mr. Boda has a real old copy. Actually, the guy that was teaching the class was the guy that's writing the book, the rewriting, or the latest edition will be a 2019. Cindy and I had talked, we were going to order a copy for everybody, the latest version of it. I don't know, I think most everybody looks at it. I mean, I don't know. But anyways, the new 2019 edition will be out in about a month or so. So when I put an order in for the new ones. So when they come, you'll be getting that. Of course, I talked about the recreational marijuana. The other one I went was Ask the Experts. It was a board of attorneys and Larry Merrill, the administrator for the MTA, who, by the way, is retiring in July.
He's a good man.
They have picked a new candidate. He was there, they introduced him. I mean, Larry Merrill's been involved in the township for 39 years. Not at MTA, but he started out as a trustee, and he was a clerk, and I think he was a supervisor. And he's going to be really missed. He's a vital part of the MTA. But the new guy has got a lot of experience. He's been around, I believe he's from over by Frankenmuth, in that area. So tried to stump those experts. I mean, they know a lot, but when they sit there in the audience and listen to this, the other townships, we've got problems in this town, in this township, granted, but there's a lot of other townships got a lot bigger problems than what we got. I mean, it was kind of refreshing to hear that our problems are not as big as what some of the other townships have. The other one I attended was the 5 ordinances that you need in your township. And after attending that, I think we have all 5 of those ordinances, which was refreshing that, you know, a lot was to do with
In order
blight.
to become a charter township, you need 5 things.
Oh, you do?
That's what they talk to you about. You need 5 items.
Well, that's the police protection and fire, though. These are 5 ordinances.
Police and fire, and there's 3 more.
Okay. And there was a lot of networking, and the speakers they had in the evening, and at 8:30 each morning, they had a guest speaker there, very educational, motivated speakers. It was good. It was, the Secretary of State spoke one evening. Like Bob said, she's got a lot on her plate now, and her big thing is to cut the waiting time at the Secretary of State's, but I think that's the goal of every Secretary of State that we've had, that I can remember. So with that, that completes what I had at the MTA. I was fortunate that you guys let me go. It was quite educational. There's a lot. I wish some of the board members would go to it. I know everybody's busy, but I'm gonna suggest next year that if we don't, board members don't go, especially clerk and treasurer, that we send the deputies. There was a lot of deputies there. A lot of townships send their board, their whole board, the deputies, because it is a learning experience. Cindy was unable to go this year, but through scheduling, but I think she'll find it's very educational. And that completes my report, but I want to allow Cindy, is there some things you want to say? We got your report here. These are just some of the things that you do every day.
Well, those are things that I've either worked on or kind of wrapped up during the month of March. Usually I present that the first of the month, but I wasn't here last time, so that's kind of my March report. Some things are still in progress, but fortunately some things we've wrapped up and they've moved on.
And Cindy did an awful lot on submitting this grant, this Michigan State Emergency Management Homeland Security. Put a lot of work into that. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, worked with PCE to pull all that together. Unfortunately, some of the information that they provided to us in the fall was pertinent to use for those numbers, because they want you to have a really solid idea of the cost involved for these before you're invited to apply for the grant. So this is just the first phase of submitting the letters of intent, and hopefully we'll be invited to submit grant applications.
This is all spun off from the emergency management meeting that Jeff Freeland, before he retired, we had it here in the hall, and we invited, or he invited, we were just hosting. We didn't do any of this stuff, but Clay was here, St. Clair, Marine City, different municipalities.
Yeah.
They had, what was it, Homeland Security, Corps of Engineers.
Corps of Engineers.
And a lot of it was stemming from the flooding on Point Drive. This is what, and they told us about these grants that are available. So that's what Cindy went after to get. Just all these things that we're doing here, we're making a lot of changes. The computers are, the updates that she's doing in there, I think those are wonderful. I mean, trouble one goes and then they start going. I mean, we still have, what, 2 or 3 more?
Yeah, there's still a couple that are going to need
Yeah.
some attention.
don't
All of them by June, of course.
Take over for your report, but is that all you had then, or?
The only other thing is, and I don't have my calendar, but I think it's posted on the door on the 8th, which I believe is Wednesday, the day after the election. There is the curbside chipping program where our DPW will go around. So if the public would like things out by Tuesday evening, it has to be out. We have guidelines posted on our door and our website as to how they should prepare that. It's also on the local cable access right now.
And we'll make sure that we announce that at our next meeting.
Right, I think the
That'll
next
be
meeting is just the day
6th.
before, so if people want to plan ahead, they can start kind of pulling that stuff together.
That's another cost-saving thing that we've done over the last few years. We used to contract it out. Now we use our people and our chipper to do that.
And that's a great service. Not all townships provide that, I'll tell you
And
that.
it's only spring and fall.
Yeah.
We don't do it every week, so.
It's very helpful.
One thing I forgot is checks are now being done in-house without Smith being here.
They are, yes.
Okay.
Yep. So, thank you for all their hard work on this. That all you
That's
have?
it.
No more? Okay. Nobody has anything else? I guess a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So move. I move that we adjourn at 8:18.
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we adjourn at 8:18. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.